Alright everyone, in today's video, I quickly want to go over Arc Warlock and talk about how it's changed in Edge of Fate. Obviously with last season, Arc builds were some of the strongest in the game, but now with new artifact perks, buffs and nerfs to a certain exotic, changes to the whole stat system in general, the build plays a little different, but it still has a lot going on for it, and I still think it is a very strong build that you might want to go after. Now with that being said, there is still room for improvement because as of recording this, it seems that Geomags is not giving the correct amount of super energy back that it's supposed to. This exotic did get nerfed with Edge of Fate, but when you pair that to the stats of 100 super, you should be getting more than what we currently are getting. So if that ever does get changed, you will be getting more super energy, which is great. But even right now, it is still very, very good. And then on top of that, once we get access to tier 5 armor, it will be easier to get the stat distributions that we desire. But really quick, if you all do enjoy and learn anything new, consider doing all the normal YouTube stuff. It really does go a long way, and all of the support is truly appreciated. But with all of that being said, let's jump right into this build. All right, first things first, let's take a look at the Geomax stabilizers. If you don't know what this does, it has the exotic perk Close Enough. Damaging targets with Chaos Reach extends its duration. Collecting Onyx Traces grants you energy for Chaos Reach. Sprinting while near max bolt charge will grant stacks over time. So this is one of the best Arc Warlock exotics in the game, and the super energy regen did get nerfed, and like I said, it does also seem to be a little buggy right now, so it should technically be a little bit better if you have 100 super. But once again, even with that, it is still very noticeable the super energy that you do get back. You're still going to be able to spam supers like crazy without really having to worry about doing anything. Now the other part of this exotic is that when you sprint, it is going to build up bolt charge stacks when you are near max bolt charge. This actually got changed in a lot of different ways, so now it will start on 5 bolt charge stacks instead of 6. It will start the quicker you sprint, and while you are sprinting, it builds up quicker. So as you see, we can basically just start sprinting at 5 and we already are up to 10. That is without our fragments really activated or anything. That is just straight up just sprinting with the basic exotic, and as you saw, it gets it pretty quick. Now where that's going to come into play is actually going to be with our subclass, and that's because we're going to be running the aspect Onyx Sentry, so defeating targets with kinetic or arc weapons or arc abilities to charge up an arc turret that periodically chains lightning between nearby targets, granting stack bullet charge when each hit. So essentially now, whenever you build your stacks up with this, you can throw a little Onyx Sentry out, and it's going to discharge those bolt charge stacks, which as you saw there, the lightning strike that comes down, and it becomes this like sort of meta you can do is basically just throw the Onyx Sentry down and then just keep sprinting in circles while that is constantly building up bolt charge stacks when it hits enemies, because since sprinting builds it up so quick, you could just kind of just keep sprinting in circles, and while that's attacking enemies, it will just keep building bolt charge stacks up, and you're just constantly getting these bolt charge procs over and over again. I can't stress enough just how good Onyx Sentry is in this build for in-game content, lower tier content. It just kills everything passively, and you get them so quick. It's just so good. Now next aspect is just going to be electrostatic mine. So defeating targets with arc abilities or defeating jolted or blinded targets creates an Onyx Trace. Collecting an Onyx Trace makes you amplified. So now pretty much everything in our kit is going to be able to make Onyx Traces, which is great, and once you pick these up, you will get amplified, and amplify is going to give you that sprint booster. It makes enemies less likely to shoot you, and you're going to get 15% damage reduction. So amplified is one of the strongest buffs in the game, and you're going to have this all the time. You want to pick up these Onyx Traces constantly anyway to build your super up with Chaos Reach, and overall just obviously picking up Onyx Traces gives you another benefit is very good. Now to further help out with that, we're going to be taking Spark of Discharge, so if we collect an Onyx Trace, it's going to grant us stack of bolt charge, so further help out with playing into collecting Onyx Traces. And if we get Arc Weapon Final Blows, it has a chance to create an Onyx Trace, which is great. We are also going to be taking Spark of Frequency, so whenever we're Amplify, it's going to increase our bolt charge stacks that we do get, so we can just get bolt charge even faster because we're always going to be amplified with Electrostatic Mine. And on top of that, if we do get a melee hit, it will drastically increase our reload speed and stability, which is nice because you can spam your melee a lot too. Now we're going to be running Spark of Shock, so our Arc Grenade can jolt targets. This is going to make it against Electrostatic Mine. You're going to be able to get more Onyx Traces. Also, Jolt's just very good for ad clear. And then Spark of Resistance just to help out with some incoming damage, because whenever we're surrounded, we're going to get more resistance to incoming damage. Now for the abilities, I like to take Ball Lightning because it is just a longer range melee, which plays into Spark of Frequency, so you can proc it a lot more often. And then also Pulse Grenade is just very good paired with Spark of Shot, because it just sits there. Anything that runs through it is going to get jolted. And again, all the jolt and bolt charge is going to just synergize with everything together. And then for the other abilities, obviously you're running Chaos Reach, and then I just like to run Healing Word for some extra survivability. So all that playing out, you basically can just spam your abilities. You're going to be able to get these Onyx Traces super quick, which is going to grant you, obviously your super energy. You're going to constantly get these bolt charge stacks, and you're going to be able to just constantly spam stuff over and over again. And it is just so much fun. I know there is a lot of buffs on your screen at one time with this build, but just know that all of these kind of just work in the background, and you don't really have to worry about making sure you have something up. It just literally play the game and everything will do everything for you. Now, as you probably saw there, I did get a kill with a arc weapon, and weapons will matter a good amount with this build because you want to run something that will play into the subclass. Delicate Tomb is a great option because this basically makes it so you can jolt targets. Collect Onyx Trace is basically also going to refill the magazine if you do have the catalyst, and whenever you collect the Onyx Trace, you basically just get a insane damage buff for this weapon, and it can just shred anything, even higher tier content. All the gameplay you've seen is -50, and it is just absolutely disgusting. Now, if you don't want to run Delicate Tomb, you can also run something like a Volt Shot weapon. Any weapon will work, non-data mob probably being my favorite, but you can basically just proc Volt Shot, and since it is technically applying Jolt, it is going to be able to proc things like Electrostatic Mon. You can proc your Spark of Discharge because it's an arc weapon, and as you see, you can even make Onyx Traces with the primary weapon as well. And then if you don't like Volt Shot, you can even take something like Jolting Feedback if that's more your speed. All of these will work. Just make sure you have something that can apply Jolt, because that is what is going to be very, very strong synergizes with the build. You can also have something that does blind as well if you would like to, but typically with Onyx Entry, this will blind enemies, so that kind of has that covered. So it's kind of up to you. Just jolt everything, get Onyx Traces everywhere. If you want to run Delicate Tomb, if you want to run a Cold Heart, if you want to run a Volt Shot Jolt Feedback weapon, or even if you want to run Lodestar, you could do that too. And a thing to point out that Lodestar is actually going to be a featured weapon with this current season. So if you're trying to use new gear, Lodestar may actually be a pretty solid thing to use with this. As for the other weapons, it literally doesn't matter at all. Just kind of run whatever is in the current meta. You just want to have an arc weapon to play into our subclass that can apply Jolt or do anything of the sort like that. Now, for the artifact perks, this is where we actually get into some new things here that can actually make this build pretty solid. Now, there isn't anything here too crazy, but the stuff that it does provide is actually very good. There are going to be 4 main things, and the first 2 just being something like Elemental Coalescence. So if you defeat a target, has a chance to create an elemental pickup matching your equipped super element. So this is cool because it may let you make 1 additional Onyx Trace. In all honesty, I don't know if you need it too much because you have things like Electrostatic Mon and also things like Spark of Discharge, but it can't hurt if you make 1 additional one. Obviously, that's still pretty good. And then you have things like Refresh Threads, so picking up elemental pickup matching your subclass element, or Tangle while you have a strand super grants energy to your least charge ability. So Onyx Traces, their whole thing is that they kind of give ability energy for everything already. They're kind of unique, where it's like the solar only gets grenade, but with Onyx Traces, every time you pick one up, you will get ability energy, which is great. So this artifact perk is basically going to allow you to just get some extra energy to your least charge ability. So if you don't have a bunch of stat distribution and things like your melee or your class, you can get them back up very, very quickly, which is great. Now, we can also play into things like Elemental Overdrive. So when we pick up an Elemental Pickup or Tangle, it grants increased damage to weapons of that same element. So as you see here, if we do get a kill, we will be able to pick an Onyx Trace up, and it will grant us 10% increased damage for 5 seconds. Again, there's so many buffs on the screen, you can't really tell, but just know that it is there and you'll be getting more damage. So if we get a kill here, as you see, it does 402. If we pick an Onyx Trace up here, it will do a total of 471. So we are getting more damage just for picking up Onyx Traces, which is very, very good. And then for the final artifact perk, it is just going to be Shield Crush. So at the bottom, while you are amplified or radiant, your grenade recharges faster and deals increased damage. So this is going to be a very grenade focused build. You want to spam grenades literally all the time, and since you're always going to be amplified because of picking Onyx Traces up, that just means you can have this increased grenade cooldown 24/7, and you can spam grenades a lot as well, while also doing the extra damage. But now let's move on to stats and talk about the newly updated system. So obviously this is a super base build, so you're going to want to run 200 super. As of right now, I only have 150 because I don't really have access to all of the armor that I want to go for this build quite yet, but having the 200 super will give you more damage, but it also will give you increased energy gain. So picking these Onyx Traces up with the 100 super is going to grant even more energy, but again, it does seem to be a little bug right now, or shadow nerf. I'm not exactly sure what they're going for with it, but you should theoretically be getting a little bit more energy as of recording this. Hopefully it will get fixed later, but even right now, again, as you've seen in the gameplay, you still get your super very, very quick. Obviously, getting the extra super damage is also going to be very, very good. You can basically just do more damage, especially with the extension that Chaos Reach does provide. With Geomags, you're just going to be able to do a ton of boss damage very, very easily. Now, I do like to opt in to take 100 grenade because you need to spam abilities with this build to kind of start the chain of spammed abilities. So I like to spam the grenade because, again, the grenade will apply Jolt. That'll proc things like Electrostatic Mine. You can basically just spam this all the time, throw it in the Onyx Sentry in there. and having the extra grenade stat again with things like something like shield crush to get more damage, it also makes it pretty good for ad clear. I don't think I would go over 100. If you could somehow get the 200 grenade and 200 super, I know you probably could with font mods, you could do so, but definitely just try to get at least 100 grenade to get that cooldown as much as possible, and then get your super damage up just so you can do more damage to chaos reach. I think we all saw from the day one just how strong super stat is currently in the game, so 100 super is a must, and definitely get to 200 for that extra damage. For the rest of the stats, it's honestly up to you. I just opted to go in with 50 class and 50 melee because kind of just obviously makes them even. You want to spam them just as much as one another, so you can basically spam all your abilities 24/7, especially with the artifact perks, things like refresh threads, and it makes this build just a ton of fun to play. Now for the armor mods, this is what I'm running if you like to copy them down, but as a further look, I do run a harmonic siphon, so my arc weapon final blows can make orbs of powers. This is going to be good for armor charge. Also playing into some of our other armor mods, we're always going to be running an arc weapon with this build, so this is going to be very, very good. And then ashes to assets and dynamo, since we can spam our abilities all the time, Ash Assets is going to give us more super energy with grenade kills. Dynamo is going to give us more super energy when we use our class ability near targets, which we're going to be doing all the time. Now for our arms, I'd like to take a harmonic loader. If you're running something like Delicate Tomb, this isn't necessary, but if you're running a different arc weapon, it can be pretty good. This just increases the reload speed of your arc weapons. And then I run bolstering detonation with the transfer, so whenever I cause damage with a grenade, I'm going to get class ability cooldown and melee cooldown. Since you can throw your grenade a lot more than the other two abilities, I like to just play into those mods. For the chest piece, I always just go with resist mods, just swap these out whatever content that you're going into. And then for the leg armor, I do go for an innervation, orbs restoration, and an absolution. So with innervation, I get grenade energy whenever I pick an orb up. Orbs restoration gives me energy to my lowest cooldown ability, and then absolution gives me cooldown for everything. So basically, absolution is working as an ionic trace, orbs restoration is working as the artifact perk, refresh threads, and then innervation is obviously just giving us grenade, which is good. And then for our class item, I do just go with a bomber, so whenever I use my class ability, I get grenade cooldown. You can spam your class ability a lot because of all the ionic traces that you are picking up. Now you can throw even more grenades, powerful attraction, so I can pick all the orbs up around me if I haven't picked them up already whenever I use my class ability, which is great. And then I just run a special finisher just to make special ammo. You can honestly swap this out for whatever you would like to, but I like to run special because I do run Delicate Tomb with this setup quite a lot, just to make sure I always have special. And with the new special ammo meter alongside special finisher, there really isn't a time I don't have special ammo with Delicate Tomb, so you can basically use it like a primary, which is cool. And if you really want to play into that, you could swap out one of these armor mods up top to run something like a special ammo finder if that's something you would like to do. I don't think it's super necessary, but if you just really want to make sure you always have ammo, you could totally do so. But even with just this setup, it already has a lot. And if you don't run Delicate Tomb, obviously you can still take advantage of things like Volt Shot and still get the same effect with this build. And then for the final part of the build, this is the Transmog I'm running. Obviously I went for a very Arc Vex theme look here. I took advantage of one of the Geomag ornaments. I took advantage of the brand new raid helmet as well, which I think actually looks pretty cool. Also, I took advantage of the Vex armor that you can get from the Eververse store this season. Overall, I think it turned out looking pretty cool, and if you want to make your Warlock look like this, definitely be sure to copy it down. Anyway, though, that is going to do it all for me. Let me know what you all think about this build in the comments below. I know this is not a crazy brand new build, but I wanted to give an updated version with all the brand new artifact perks. I may even do a fully perfected version later down the line once I have all the tier 5 armor. I don't know if that's something y'all would be interested in, but that's something I'm considering doing for almost all of the builds in the game, honestly. Once I have the exact tier 5 stat distributions, the exact armor sets I want for each specific build, I'm really thinking about just kind of doing updated tier 5 version builds. Again, if that's something you like to see, just definitely be sure to let me know down below. But as of right now, this is pretty much the best I can do until we get our late level up even more. But I definitely still want to go over all the new synergies, the nerfs and buffs, and talk about how it is still one of the strongest builds in the game, and I think you all are still going to enjoy it just as much as last season. Anyway, though, that's going to do it all for me. I wish you all the best of luck putting this build together for yourself. I want to thank you all so much for watching, and hope you all have a great day. Peace.